All right, now we're ready to start the procedure. Part one is using the hydrometer to measure the specific gravity of deionized water. Before beginning, study the scale of the hydrometer with your lab partner. Make sure you understand how to read the scale. It measures specific gravities from about 0.998 to 1.040. Discuss how many decimal places will need to be recorded to ensure that your data has the correct number of sig figs. So this is the hydrometer, and well, it's a uranometer. So if you see at the top, this line right here is 1.000, and then there's a scale 10, 20, 30, 40, but if you see it's 1.040, and then there's these graduations. So like if it was to right here, it'd be 1.005, but for sig figs, you would estimate if it's like between these two lines, you'd estimate what that number would be. Carefully remove the hydrometer and fill the cylinder about half full with DI water. Be careful how you handle the hydrometer, it's delicate. This is the cylinder that you'll want to fill about halfway. So I'll grab some DI water. Alright, so that's about halfway full. Okay, we're at part one, step 3. Slowly lower the hydrometer into the water, and when you feel it start to float, gently spin it to remove any water bubbles that might have stuck to its surface. So we'll slowly lower it and spin it. And step 4, if the hydrometer touches the bottom of the cylinder, the water level is too low. Remove the hydrometer and add a little DI water and try again. If you added too much water, it will spill out the cylinder when you add the hydrometer. So it's not quite touching the bottom, and we have some space at the top, so I think we are good. Once the water level is correct, write down the specific gravity of the DI water in table 1 under 0.0 moles per liter sugar solution, and then double check that your sig figs are correct. You'll want to start making these data tables if they're at the end of your lab report, but you'll want to make something similar to this on Excel so that you can record your specific gravities. So we're gonna read it 3 times. All right, so the top line is 1.000, and there's the scale. So record your data. So now we're at part 6. Measure the specific gravity of the water 2 more times. Each time remove the hydrometer and then return it to the cylinder. Give it a light twirl to dislodge any air bubbles. So we'll do it 2 more times. All right. So record your data. And we'll do it one more time. Record your data. Alright, so then step 7, calculate the average specific gravity of the DI water and write that in table 1. And then 8, pour out the water into the sink and carefully dry the outside of the hydrometer, but you don't need to dry the cylinder. So I'll do that really fast. Alright, so now we're ready for part 2. Preparing a 0.05 mole per liter reference sugar solution and measuring its specific gravity. So we'll need to grab things from the instructor bench. We'll need to grab a volumetric flask, and then we'll also need to grab sugar. So it says rinse the inside of the volumetric flask with DI water to make sure that it's clean. So I'll do that really fast. Alright, so that's rinsed. Okay, so now we need to go to the equipment room to measure out some sugar and prepare our solution. So we're at part 2, step 2. Zero a scale with a plastic weigh boat on top of it. If weigh boats are not available, use a 50 ml beaker. So this is a weigh boat. And then 0 just means that the scale reads 0.000. And it does. So, but if it didn't, you would hit tare or you could hit 0. Part 2, step 3. Measure approximately 1.7 grams of table sugar into the plastic weigh boat. The mass doesn't need to be exactly 1.7. It could be between 1.6 and 1.8. But you must record accurately the actual mass that you measure out into table 2. Alright, so I'm going to weigh out about 1.7. Alright. So I'll close this and wait for it to stabilize. Alright, so record the mass of sugar into table 2. Alright, so place a funnel in your volumetric flask and then pour the sugar into the funnel. So I'll do that right over here. Let me go grab a funnel. Alright, so I grabbed a funnel for my volumetric flask and it says pour the sugar into the funnel. So these, if you squeeze them to the side, it makes like a point, so it's easier to pour. And then you'll notice there's still a little bit of sugar left on the weigh boat. So it says, using the squeeze bottle of DI water, rinse the weigh boat several times so that all the sugar goes into the funnel. So we'll just rinse. And then one more time to make sure we rinsed everything in. Then we'll rinse the funnel. Oops. So fill the volumetric flask with DI water until the bottom round portion is about halfway full. So it looks about halfway full. Then place the lid on the volumetric flask and swirl it until all the sugar dissolves. This may take several minutes. So we'll remove our funnel. And swirl this. We'll just have to keep swirling until it's a clear liquid and we don't see any more sugar. So it looks like all the sugar's dissolved, it's just air bubbles. So now we'll move on to the next step. Fill the volumetric flask up to the bottom of the neck. Then use a plastic transfer pipette to fill the DI water up to the 0.100 liter line. Alright, so we'll take the lid off. And I'm just going to use a squeeze bottle. And so you'll want to add it until you get to the bottom of the neck. And then you want to be really careful when you add it to get it up to the line. Alright, so now you can see where the line is, kind of. So the line is right there, and we'll want the meniscus to be at that line. All right, so place the lid on the flask again and hold it very firmly, and then invert the flask 2 times to thoroughly mix the solution. Alright, so put your thumb on the stopper and then invert it. And I'll do it a few times. Alright, so that should be thoroughly mixed.